about this idea of creating space for God and making that somewhat dependent on welcoming the larger community, it's important to take time to think about those individuals who may not feel welcomed in because they may have some sort of disability, some sort of physical challenge that might make it more difficult. Think about this service being closed captioned tonight, and what a difference it might make for someone who is hearing challenged. Think about all of the ways that a synagogue needs to open itself up to ensure that those people who may travel in a wheelchair or with a walker or some other device would also feel welcomed into the space. That's in a sense how you create the sanctuary, this place where God can dwell, because if the community can't feel comfortable dwelling in the space, if they don't feel welcomed in, then I suspect that God won't either. This is Jewish Disabilities Awareness Month. And Anshe Emet is so fortunate and really so blessed to have the Kehilla Kedosha committee, a committee that thinks about these issues throughout the year and has made such a difference in the life of our congregation. It was my privilege to have a conversation with one of the chairs of the Kehilla Kedosha and really one of the leaders of this effort, Elesheva Soloff. It was pre-recorded, but we are honored to show you that video now. Disability Awareness Month, based on the belief that together we can foster a more inclusive Jewish community that emphasizes first and foremost the value, dignity, and capabilities of each and every individual. Kehilla Kedosha, the inclusion committee at the Anshe Emet Synagogue, has made a true difference. In 2016, Kehilla Kedosha, which works in participation with the United Synagogue for Conservative Judaism, the Ruderman Inclusion Action Committee, sponsored by the USCJ, and our mission is to foster a community which welcomes, includes, and celebrates the contributions of people with disabilities and their families. We recognize that the Jewish community includes people who experience the world in a whole variety of ways. Now, one of the founding members of Kehilla Kedosha and a leader of that effort is Elesheva Soloff, who is our special guest tonight. Welcome, Elesheva. Elesheva is a professional organizer. She runs a company called Soloff Space Solutions, which works with people to create space and storage solutions. And as I was telling Elesheva earlier, I think that I could be a client of your organization. Anyway, thanks for making the time to be with us on this Shabbat, and thank you for all you have done for our congregation.
Thank you, Rabbi Siegel, for having me. I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk with you about Kehilla Kedosha and Anshe Emet.
Great. So let's just begin with the title, Kehilla Kedosha, a holy congregation. Can you talk for a minute, Elesheva, about why that title was chosen and what it means to you to be a truly holy congregation?
So Kehilla Kedosha means sacred community. It means to make a community special by being open and welcoming to everyone.
And so in a way, there's a underlying principle here. that we can do all of the ritual in an exacting way. We can pray and have the greatest cantor in the world and have wonderful sermons. But if we are making it impossible for people with disabilities, people with physical challenges, to be present or to participate, then we are not really measuring up to the title of a Kehilla Kedosha.
So part of it is about raising awareness for the entire community on how to include everyone at different stages of life and needs, involving both current members to continue to feel welcome, as well as potential members. I mean, you could have a healthy athlete coming in on a crutch because she broke her foot, or which is a temporary disability, or an older adult losing his hearing. So how can we still include them in all walks of life?
And one of the blessings of our time is to have technology that can really help us in this effort. And I love the fact that we are doing this with captioning. And as I'm talking, I'm sort of watching the captions come across. What is this like for you to have this technology?
So as a person with a hearing loss, I rely on captioning, and it's a major lifesaver because it means that I don't have to wait till the end of the program to know what's going on. I could be with my people. You know, if people are laughing, I can laugh with them. If people are upset and stuff like that reason, I know why. I don't have to wait till the end. And it's basically almost like equalizing the level field. So then it's a way to be included. And it's only recently that Zoom actually add in auto captioning on Zoom. So it's a very big deal. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity and perfect timing for Steward Disability Awareness and Inclusion Month.
You know, it's amazing that, you know, as you're talking, I found it to be very humbling in a way, because I thought to myself that how easy it is to just miss what the experience of someone else might be like. You can have all the good intentions that you want, but if you're not only focused, but if you're not willing to make the changes and experience synagogue life or any other aspect of life through someone else's experience, then again, we're not measuring up to that Kehilla Kedosha ideal. So thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about the work of Kehilla Kedosha. Can you talk for a moment about what are some of the changes and what are some of the changes that we've implemented at Anshe Emet?
Absolutely. So Kehilla Kedosha has been a community at the synagogue for almost 5 years with an amazing community. I mean, I did not do this alone. The community also made a big difference. We dealt with physical access and programmatic access. The first few years, the success implemented on physical access based on the recommendations of the inclusive community were we activated the handicap entry by the striker that got shut off after 9/11 for security. You know, with about 15 years went by until it was brought to Anshe Emet's attention to reactivate after witnessing an older gentleman, usually walkers, trying to get in from the striker. So once that was activated, there were other benefits for that reactivation as well. Parents were able to bring strollers in, and not only that, but t-shirts and caterers were usually carts filled with supplies. So that's one. Another one was a ramp was built at the Malkoff Chapel, which meant that all of the first floor space is accessible for everyone. In addition, a quiet room was made available during the high holidays and major community-wide programs, which allows families and children to have a space to go to when it's sensory overload. As for programmatic access, a practice once in place heavy hard copies of the Ray Torah, it Rose Ground Minute, and for all of the high holiday services. We provided open captioning and ASL interpreters in major programs, and we are partnering with staff and crew and programming to raise representation of people with disabilities in the community. So this year, for Disability Awareness and Inclusion Month, Max Handelman, Anshe Emet, wonderful director of Family Life and Learning, ran a Friday night family program and storytelling about stuttering, tying the parsha with Moses speaking and his speech impediment. Last week, we were lucky to have a congregational rabbi from Massachusetts, Rabbi Darby Lee, sharing his Jewish upbringing as a deaf person navigating in the hearing world. He gave a trust with new meaning for inclusion. And lastly, this past week, we have a movie night on a documentary, Crimp Camp, with a discussion, and apparently it's an Oscar buzz.
It's really quite a set of accomplishments, and I think so much a part of the work of Kehilla Kedosha is raising the consciousness of the congregation. I mean, imagine we made a decision after 9/11 to maximize our security. And it made perfect sense. It was the right thing to do. But we didn't think about the ancillary challenges that it presented to others until Kehilla Kedosha brought it to our attention. And I think that's such an important aspect of the work, of how we can, as a Jewish community, be inclusive and welcome every person into the congregation. It's one thing to say, everyone's welcome here. It's one thing to say that we are an inclusive congregation, but as we know as Jews, actions matter. That's how we measure success. So during this time of COVID, what are some of the challenges that you think that we've met and we've been faced with during this time?
So with the pandemic, Anshe Emet switched to virtual, and I know that some of the staff helped older congregants on how to use Zoom so that they could still be connected. And while that's not the work of the inclusion committee, I want to acknowledge the staff promotion on inclusion, and it's a big deal. So we mentioned that Zoom had a new feature, which is the auto captioning. Only happened recently, Anshe Emet trained the staff on how to set up auto captioning for meetings and programs. And because it is a new addition, if you don't see the captioning option in a Zoom program, don't be shy to speak up.
Okay. I think that this is also, our conversation should also feel like an invitation to others in the community that if you are having trouble accessing, if there's something that you are experiencing that makes you feel as though you can't participate fully in the life of our congregation, then this is an invitation to you to bring it to the attention of the congregation, right? And bring it to the attention of Kehilla Kedosha. Because I can tell you that we are open to making our congregation as accessible as possible. And let's face it, the sanctuary was built in 1910.
Wow.
So accessibility was not on the agenda of the original builders. Another part of the building was built in 1936. So we are catching up, and we need to be aware of how we can do this better. How do you think we can better sensitize the community to the important work of Kehilla Kedosha?
Part of it is the community raising awareness. I mean, to really, truly feel inclusive, be really welcome, and having a combination in place so that there's really no need to ask for it. I mean, a lot of time, the combination I've mentioned, yes, it benefits one person to that specific needs, but it also benefits to other people. I mean, I want to give a personal story to share. When Rabbi Russo's son was having a twist, the third one, I didn't have time to ask him to have a hard copy of the speech available ahead of time. It's also a Shabbat, and I was on the fence whether to go. So I went. And as soon as I sat down, Rabbi Russo came over to me and he had the copy of the speech. I mean, he already typed it up. All he had to do was fix the extra one. So he gave it to me. All he said was, "Can you please not open it until we announce the name?" I said, "Of course." So, but it meant a lot to me because I got to hear the story. I got to hear how his son got his name, and when everyone's laughing, I know why. And I'm in the experience, everyone not having to wait till afterward. And not only that, but there was someone in the community who's hard of hearing, and he's very shy about the fact that he's struggling with his hearing loss. So I gave him the copy of the speech afterward, and he said, "Wow, that really made a difference," because he was not able to hear at the sanctuary. But it meant that he saw that I was able to get in, that he had the confidence to be able to ask for it also. And that's what it means to feel inclusive and welcoming. But it meant a lot to me to have Rabbi Russo to give me that copy, and I didn't have to ask for it.
And so that's part of the changes that have taken place in the congregation, because people have begun the conversation. People have raised their voices like you and helped us to better understand the needs. And so now it's become sort of second nature
Right.
for rabbis to print their sermons, to make sure that those who would like to read them as opposed to listen to them can have that opportunity. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
But I have to thank you, Elesheva, for staying with us, making sure that we are true to our mission. And I would be remiss if I didn't say how much you have made a difference for our community in so many different ways. And so we thank you, and we are inspired by you. And we will continue to learn from you and hopefully become that Kehilla Kedosha. You know, I was thinking about our Parsha this week and how God is commanding us to build a mikdash, a place where God's presence can be truly felt, a mishkan where God actually dwells amongst us. And God says, "Vasuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham." God said, "Make for me a sanctuary that I might abide in your midst." And so, Elesheva, with your help and the help of so many others, may we continue to be that Kehilla Kedosha. May we continue to be that holy congregation and ultimately be worthy of God dwelling amongst us in our midst. Thank you so very much for being with us. Shabbat Shalom.
And thank you, Rabbi Siegel, for this opportunity and for your support in promoting access and inclusion for our synagogue.
Amen.